Hi, my name is Jennifer, and on this video, I'm going to show you how to solve quadratic equations using the square root property. So grab your pencil and some paper and work through these examples with me. Take a look at this first example. We have 6x squared equals 30. The square root property tells us that we can take the square root of both sides of the equation as long as we have whatever's being squared has to be already isolated, or it has to be by itself. Notice that only the x term is being squared, not the 6. So before we can start taking the square root of both sides, we need to first divide both sides by 6. Six divided by 6 cancels out. That leaves us with x squared equals 5. Next, now we're ready to actually take the square root of both sides. We have the term being squared isolated, and so we can draw a square root radical symbol over both sides. On the left side, the square root of x squared is x. You could also think of it as this red square root symbol cancels out the little exponent too, leaving us with x equals. Over here, we cannot take the square root of 5 unless we were to use the calculator, so we're just going to represent both the positive and the negative root of 5. So what we'll do is we'll put a plus sign and a minus sign right on top of each other. That represents that we're going to do the positive and negative version of radical 5. So for this problem, that is our final answer, plus or minus square root of 5. Okay, let's try that again. Look at the problem, y squared minus 100 equals 0. Now before we can use the square root property, we have to isolate the term that's being squared. In this problem, only the y is being squared, not the minus 100. So we need to add 100 to both sides. Now we have y squared equals 100. Now that we have the term that's being squared by itself, we can use the square root property. It says we can take the square root of both sides. The square root of y squared is y. The square root of 100 is 10. But we also have to recognize that it could be negative 10, because negative 10 times negative 10 is 100. So again, we'll use the symbol plus, minus, and then we'll put 10. So this means y could either be positive 10 or negative 10. We simplify it by putting a plus and a minus symbol, and then your number 10. So your final answer is plus or minus 10. Okay, let's look at one more together. This problem is y minus 7 quantity squared equals 6. Now we're going to use the square root property on this example as well. It simply states that you can take the square root of both sides as long as the term being squared is isolated, or it's already by itself. So take a look at here. Y minus 7, because the parentheses around the y and the minus 7, this entire term is being squared. So we're ready to begin by taking the square root of both sides. On the left side, the square root symbol cancels the 2 exponent, leaving us with y minus 7. And you can drop the parentheses off. On this side, we can't really take the square root of 6 unless we had a calculator, but we do need to recognize the positive and negative roots of 6. So we'll put our plus or minus sign, but we'll keep 6 under the radical. Now we're almost finished. We need to still solve for y, so we need to add 7 to both sides. So we have y equals, and because the 6 is inside the radical, the 7 is outside the radical, we can't combine these two terms together. So we can leave our answer something like this: plus or minus radical 6 plus 7, or you could flip-flop it and say 7 plus or minus radical 6. Either answer is okay. Now, if you have any other questions about using the square root property, please contact your professor or stop by the math tutoring lab or watch this video again.